I stayed quiet when my war buddy's grandson tried to cash in on a promise. Then I cashed out his greed instead. You never forget the men you share a foxhole with, especially not the ones who didn't make it home. My name's Harold, and I'm a 92-year-old veteran who still remembers the smell of salt and fear from Normandy Beach. Back then, I made a promise to my best friend, Charlie Dawson. We were just kids pretending to be brave. And right before that D-Day landing, he looked me square in the eye and said, "If I don't make it back, you take care of my folks, Harold, and if you don't, I'll find a way to haunt you." I laughed, told him I'd buy him a beer instead. He grinned and scribbled a note right there on the back of a ration slip. Debt settled with beer in heaven. We both signed it, thinking we were being funny. But after the landing, Charlie didn't come home. And that note, it became my most sacred piece of paper. 79 years later, I got an invitation to a Veterans Hospital reunion. One of those events where you shake hands with old soldiers, salute a few photos, and swallow a lump in your throat the size of a helmet. I went to honor Charlie. They had his name carved on the memorial wall in the chapel. I brought a small flag and that old photo of us in our muddy boots, smiling like fools. That's when I met Ethan. He was mid-30s, sharp suit, fancy watch, and shoes that looked allergic to dust. "You're Harold Bennett, right?" he asked like he already knew the answer. "You fought with my granddad, Charlie Dawson." My heart warmed at the name, until his smile tightened and he said, "Grandpa told me you owed him something." I chuckled, thinking it was just a light-hearted thing. "I owed him my life, son. I'd say that's been paid in full." But then he pulled a folded paper from his jacket, brittle, yellow, and familiar. My breath caught. It was the old foxhole note, the one we'd signed in jest on D-Day. "See?" Ethan said, his voice smooth as oil. "It says, 'Promise to settle my debt.' Looks like a contract to me. With interest, that's quite a sum." He smirked. 50,000 should cover it." At first I thought he was joking. Then he leaned closer and whispered, "If you don't pay, I'll go public. Tell everyone you stiffed a fallen hero. That hit me harder than any bullet I ever dodged." The room went quiet. I just stared at him, calm on the outside, shaking inside. "Give me a few days," I said softly. "I'll make it right." I left that reunion early, the sound of laughter fading behind me. But when I got home, I opened my old footlocker. Inside, beneath a folded flag, was a leather envelope. I hadn't touched it in decades. It held Charlie's letters and one more promise, the real one, dated June 5th, 1944, the night before the landing. It read, "If I don't make it home, Harold owes me nothing but to live well and help another soldier when he can. That's the only debt between us." Signed by both of us, witnessed by our lieutenant. That's who Charlie really was. The kind of man who measured wealth in decency, not dollars. The next morning I called Mark, my old lawyer and fellow vet. I told him what Ethan had done. He laughed that deep, tired laugh that only men who've seen too much can pull off. "Harold," he said, "let the kid walk into his own trap. We'll make this clean." 3 days later, I called Ethan, told him to meet me back at the hospital chapel, the same spot under Charlie's name. He showed up grinning like a man about to win the lottery. I'd arranged for the hospital director, a few vets, and even a local reporter to be there for the handoff, as I called it. The air smelled of coffee and polish. That faint, sterile scent that always clings to hospitals and old memories. Ethan, I began, you were right. A promise was made and it's time to settle it. His grin widened. Glad you came to your senses, old man. I reached into my coat and pulled out 2 envelopes. This first one, I said, is the note you brought me. The debt you claim your grandpa left unpaid. And this second one, I paused, is the real promise Charlie and I made, witnessed the night before we stormed Normandy. I opened the second envelope and read the words aloud. The chapel grew still. You could hear the shuffle of someone's shoes in the faint hum of fluorescent lights. When I finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. I handed that letter to the reporter. That's the truth, I said. The only debt I ever owed Charlie was to live a good life, and to help another soldier when I could. Then I turned to Ethan. But since you brought it up, son, I think it's time to pay a debt anyway. I opened the first envelope, not with a check to him, but with the check made out to the Charlie Dawson Veteran Scholarship Fund. $50,000 even. Gasps rippled through the room. I smiled and said, now, that's how a man pays what he owes. Ethan's grin collapsed. He stammered, this isn't, you can't. But it was too late. The reporter had it all recorded. The headline ran 2 days later. What do you vet honors? Fallen friends promise. Out the greedy. Bear at veterans reunion. Ethan disappeared after that. Last I heard, he sold his granddad's medals on eBay. But me? I go to that hospital chapel every Memorial Day. I lay a coin on Charlie's name, like soldiers do for brothers they haven't forgotten. I whispered, that's settled, buddy. Beer's on me when I get there. You know I've lived long enough to see honor treated like a relic. But some promises aren't meant to be cashed. They're meant to be kept. Charlie taught me that. So if someone ever tries to twist your decency into weakness, don't argue. Don't fight dirty. Just keep your word, stand your ground, and let the truth do the heavy lifting. Because in the end, the best revenge isn't payback. For living so well, they have to call it justice. And if you think that was wild, wait till you hear what happened when my grandson tried to rewrite my will.